we understand now why Marvel works. Can you discuss and dissect why DC doesn't? And why they've had so much trouble in the DC universe, which arguably has some of the greatest superheroes of all time, easily the most well-known. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are much more well-known than anybody other than maybe Spider-Man in the Marvel universe prior to launching of the Marvel MCU back in the day. So why is it so difficult? What happened at DC that it's taken them? It's still like they have some one-offs here and there that are good, but they've not been able to create what Marvel has.
No, and it's a big subject, and I can't say that I'm an expert on it because I am not a fan for the most part of DC. The DC universe.
That says volumes right there.
Right there. Right. But then again, I don't, because of that basic superhero problem in superhero storytelling, I'm not as big a fan of the Marvel universe as some people are. Mm-hmm. Although I totally agree with you about the final film, the final Avengers film, and the one just before. But in terms of there's certain one-off DC films, DC comic films that are really good. Wonder Woman, I thought was excellent.
It was wonderful.
And the Batman films, obviously in the hands of the Nolan brothers, are the best you get. But the problem comes in how do you combine them into like the Justice League? It's the same thing. You're basically, for storytellers, it's the problem. How do you tell a story about an all-star team? And there's lots of problems with all-star teams because among them, first of all, if you're going to have an all-star team, you got to have all-star opposition team. Right. And that means you got to establish all those characters. And you got to do all that work in previous films so that it's not just, 5 guys with different costumes on that supposedly each has a different major superpower. And then we're supposed to, that's going to be really good conflict and drama. No, that's not going to do it. That's not what it's about. But if you notice what to me is the real key to what Marvel has done, besides what we're talking about, is setting up this stuff in previous films, which was I believe wasn't it J.J. Abrams they brought in? One of those, when they started to put the Marvel characters in conflict with each other.
I think Joss Whedon.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I knew it was a TV guy. It was a TV guy. Yeah. And that to me is the key right there. Because what they did is they brought in the knowledge of television. And television, I don't know if we talked about this the last time, television is so far advanced from above film right now. It has been for 20 years as a medium. And there's various reasons for it that we don't have time to go into. But one of the things that they do that is based on is because they're doing an ongoing series. They know that the real juice of the story, when you sustain the story, is you don't bring in a new opponent every week the way you do in a police show or a detective show, a character that we don't even get to know. No, you put the main characters of the show in opposition. That's where the conflict's got to come because those are the characters we care about. Those are the characters we meet and know every week. So what they did was they figured out a way, even though these are superheroes, figured out a way to to have them fight amongst themselves. And all of a sudden, you get the fact that we care about these characters, we know these characters as human beings, not just as superheroes, but also we're getting the conflict-driven and building based on the characters we love. Then, typically at the end, they bring in the opposing team. That gives us the big battle. That gives us all the fireworks and so on and so forth, and we cap off the story. But what was the trick to the whole story was all the conflict between the heroes that led up to it. And to me, that's what they're really good at.
And also, I think the biggest thing, and I've said this a lot before too, is that the Marvel universe of characters, they're all kind of based, for lack of a better word, they all have vulnerabilities. Generally speaking, there's They all have vulnerabilities. They all can get hurt.
Yep.
Even Iron Man, even Thor, he's the only god in the Marvel universe. Where in the DC universe, they're essentially all gods.
Right.
You've got, other than Batman, who honestly is he's a Marvel character he's in the DC universe.
Yeah.
Because he's much more Marvel than anything else. But you got Superman, you got Wonder Woman, you got Green Lantern, you got the Flash. These are gods. Aquaman, they're all gods. And that's the problem when you write for gods. If you can't kill them or can't really
put the fundamental problem right there.
That's why Superman movies are so difficult.
Right. And I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the 7 major structure stuff. First step is weakness need. If that's a god, they don't have a weakness need. If they don't have a vulnerability, you don't have a story. Because the whole story is designed to solve that weakness or to test that weakness. And so, that's why when I heard that they're going to have Batman versus Superman, that this is the stupidest idea you could possibly do. Now notice they're trying to do what Marvel's doing. They're trying to create conflict among the superheroes. But one is a god, one is superhuman, the other is a human being. It's not even a contest. It would take about 5 seconds.
Not even. It's like that's my wife, who is not a superhero fan, when she heard like Batman versus Superman, that's ridiculous. Superman would kill him in 5 seconds. Literally, she's not a fan. I'm like, yeah, that's why it's not going to work.
And I guarantee you, every person in America, when they heard that movie was coming out, the very first thought they had was, that's going to take 5 seconds.
And it took them how long? It took them like 2 hours to get to the fight, and the fight lasted 8 minutes.
Right.
And it was just so unsatisfying as a general.
Totally absurd. It was totally absurd.
It was completely absurd. But going back to gods really quickly, though, the Greeks, they figured out the god thing pretty well. I mean, if you go back to Zeus and Hades and all these, but what they did is they added human elements to all of these gods. Zeus they were all flawed characters.
Right.
And
a really important thing to keep in mind is that in Greek mythology, those gods are not gods versus humans. Gods are simply human beings taken to an nth degree.
Right.
And they're done that to show how humans really are.
Right, exactly. And that's definitely not what Superman is.